Oh, tomorrow Season 4 of Battlefield 6 starts, and then we'll all just be playing TSURU REEF. I was allowed to gather a few impressions in advance, thanks to the EA Creator Network for that, to show you how this map actually plays and of course everything else around it. But the first thing I wanted to do on this map, of course, is this. That gap is tighter than you think. Yes, the biggest map in Battlefield 6 so far, TSURU REEF. First off, how the map looks, simply gorgeous. The water, the new dynamic wave system and so on is really insane. A quick technical thing though, because it's very awesome that the waves are basically generated server side. That means every wave is the same for everyone on the server. You can really work with that. You can kind of disappear behind them if there are high waves and so on. Really awesome. And 3D diving is a thing too now. That means you can also dive in any direction with your soldier. Well, the system is really fantastic and looks super awesome. I also believe there's something for everyone on this map. We have a bit of close quarters in some villages. We have the Hainan Resort remake, so to speak, with the luxury hotel. And we have large, wide open areas where you can really let off steam as a pilot, especially as a jet pilot. That has been missing a little bit. With Galmut Railway, a map came along where you actually noticed how awesome that can actually be. And that is of course the case here again. Here, the Battlefield gamer can just be a Battlefield gamer again. The keyword is sandbox, but we'll get to that in a bit later. Let's go to Naval Warfare, the elephant in the room. We don't really have to say much about the small rib boat. We already know that from Redsack. That was basically thrown in there. We can transport people with it, up to 4. We have an MG on it. We can storm beaches with it. Great for flanking, to somehow come from somewhere else for once, because this map finally leaves this room for flanks too. And the boat is perfect for that. Then the CB90 is the keyword, the thing everyone will be brawling with on this map. We have an automatic cannon, we have a minigun that you can install on top. Although I would say the automatic cannon is the best variant, because yes, you can actually shoot at vehicles and other boats and so on probably with it. With the minigun, not so much. And we can shoot at all sorts of things with the CB90. Whether it creeps and flies on the sea, on land or in the air, you can simply destroy everything with it. You even have torpedoes, which you can shoot out of the back though. So that's very situational, or you just sneak up to a rock somewhere and wait. You can steer them in the water, by the way, so they are wire guided, so to speak. They aren't like the torpedoes you might remember from Battlefield 1, from the small boats. Then we also have sea mines you can just throw out of the back, which then just float around there. Then as the second seat we have this giant double barrel cannon mortar thing. It can shoot in direct fire mode as well, and as how you know it from a mortar, right? Where you then have the crosshair on the map. You know how this works. But what has to be said about this is when you are in the direct fire mode, it still shoots those mortar shells. So it's not like a cannon all of a sudden, meaning they are relatively slow. That means at a bit of a distance you really have to make sure you aim a bit higher and lead a bit, so it doesn't suddenly turn into a tank cannon in direct fire mode. We can shoot IR smoke with it, we can shoot high explosive shells, airburst things and such. So that is really a very universal piece of equipment, and fighting with it is also really interesting. Because of this dynamic wave system, when there is a swell, it's actually not that easy to hit things with it. When you are somewhere inland or on a canal, for example, the waves get calmer there, hence dynamic wave system. Not only that they are sometimes higher and sometimes lower in certain places, but it's also the case that in harbor areas or the like, there is little swell and you can fight much better there. So it's a very tactical thing and you have to get used to it a bit first and play around with it. It is tricky, I'm telling you. So have a little patience when you start playing with it. It's definitely something new in Battlefield 6. It's really fun cruising around with it. And once you get into the groove with your buddy in the game, for example, it's definitely a blast. But positioning is very important with this. Yeah, we've already talked about waves. We've already talked about diving. But there is, of course, one thing coming now, and those are the new weapons. First of all, we were already able to play the new 3, and here's a quick overview. First, we have the Broad 3. That is already a bit of a stubborn beast. We naturally didn't have the opportunity to get ultra heavily practiced with it right now, but I can tell you there's recoil. So medium ranges are definitely great with it. Long ranges, not so much really. So that is rather something for the, well, as I said, close to medium range combat. Then we have the VSS-M that comes with a suppressor. Actually a DMR. It shoots relatively fast and is actually pretty awesome for this map because you naturally often have larger distances to bridge. Big map, big engagement distances. It's definitely fun there. You can shoot fast, but you have to be a bit careful with the recoil there. But then you also can convert it into full auto. The attachment is quite expensive, however, so you can't attach particularly much else to it, similar to the M16A4 that we got. And then the thing is simply a close combat monster and is really fun, but it also has recoil, so you have to be a bit careful there too. But that is a very interesting weapon. It plays a little differently. And last but not least, I think my favorite of the three, the EF88, an Australian variant of the Steyr AUG. Everyone probably rather has AUG in the back of their mind when they see something like this. It is really awesome for this map because it is a bit more forgiving, I'll say. And with a bit of tap firing, you can still work quite well at a distance. In close combat, there's naturally better stuff. Sure, it has to have its weaknesses somewhere, but I think I would recommend that one out of the new weapons, at least in these scenarios, as it is the case on this giant map. Definitely interesting new weapons in Season 4 of Battlefield 6. One or the other might perhaps ask themselves now, is the map maybe too big? Because that is also an option. And that is a bit ambivalent, because we've had relatively small maps in Battlefield 6 until now. People who are new to Battlefield might not even know the scale of a map at all. As I said, the biggest ever in Battlefield 6. And I've already heard voices saying, oh, then you have to run for like 40 minutes. Right here is the fallacy. You don't have to run, you have to use vehicles. You have to spawn a bit more tactically. That means you have to think beforehand about where you are going, and vehicles, transport vehicles. That is super important on these maps. If you run everywhere, then it naturally seems too big quickly. But such a big map just holds completely different possibilities. Keyword sandbox. You finally have a bit of time to try out something new, or to fly jets probably, to flank tactically for once, to capture some point in the back. That was just not really possible on the somewhat smaller maps in Battlefield 6 up to now. Railway to Goal mode showed how that can be, and I thought that was great. And here it works even better, of course. Therefore, I can repeat it often enough, use vehicles to get from A to B. And since many do that, it in turn yields other possibilities now to lay mines, to set traps, to plan ambushes, etc. I'll just call it that. So you just have to play the whole thing a bit differently. You have to get used to it a bit. If you are currently used to these high-octane rounds or maps from Battlefield 6, those are my 2 cents on that. It is very big, yes, it is, but you just have to play around it. And vehicles. That's just where Battlefield actually comes from. It's just a bit of a different gameplay. A little different from the gameplay in other action-heavy shooters. But that is exactly what makes Battlefield Battlefield. OG Battlefield, one or the other might say. Are you hyped for it yet? Are you hyped for it yet? Or are you hyped for it yet? That is simply the question I'm asking myself right now, and that you should blast into the comments below, whether you are hyped or not, whether it's too big for you, whether it's too small for you. Your worries and fears and hardships, write them all down in the comments below, because they will naturally be answered by the community. And here's another video you can definitely watch, and here you can subscribe. That would be awesome. That makes me happy, that makes the channel and the YouTube algorithm happy too. I hope I was able to give you a little insight and make your mouth water a bit. Pun intended. We'll see each other in the next video and of course on TSURU Reef. Bye!